Viewpoints on the talk station FM 107 AM 1240. Coincidentally, as we heard that commercial, and no, we did not plan that in any way, shape, or form, we have the very same person joining us this afternoon, Dr. Joan Perry, as we heard just a moment ago, candidate for the 3rd Congressional District. She also has brought with her a friend. Before I get to her friend, Marjorie Dannenfelser, let me first welcome Dr. Joan Perry. Dr. Perry, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Lockwood, and thank you so much.
Our pleasure. And yes, it was coincidental. That was not intentional. So I know you're smiling about that. Let's talk.
I am.
I know that we've got a guest joining us, but before we even get to Ms. Dannenfelser, by the way, a Greenville native, we'll get the details on that. Let's talk about you and your campaign and what specifically are you, what has driven you to this campaign?
Yeah, well, of course, that's a great question. I have had the privilege of practicing and teaching pediatrics in eastern North Carolina for 33 years and raising our 5 boys and toward the end of that, taking care of my mother for 10 years. And during that time, Lockwood was always interested in policy and where policy and culture and faith intersect. But it was just not the right time to run for office because I really wanted to be thoroughly invested in raising our boys and then taking care of my mom. So with her passing in December, my husband and I began to really pray about this next chapter of life because for 37 years, we had not had an empty nest except for the first 10 and a half months of our marriage. So we were doing that when, unfortunately, Congressman Jones passed away, and this became a possibility. But I'll tell you what really turned the page for me was indeed what was mentioned in the commercial, and that is watching the New York legislature pass that Reproductive Health Act and then the Virginia governor basically endorse infanticide. And as a pediatrician and as a mom and as a grandmother and as a Christian and as a citizen, this was appalling to me. Over the course of 3 decades, I have been taking care of babies and children and nurturing life and supporting life and working hard, resuscitating little babies. And as a Christian who believes all life is ordained by God and certainly with my pediatric training, I just really felt like this was something that I could uniquely speak to. I think right now we hear a lot of female voices in D.C. that are, and in New York obviously also, that are speaking to this agenda. And I really feel like there needs to be a strong conservative female voice with medical expertise that can step up and speak up for the unborn.
With that said,
so that's in short why.
All right. With that said, let me bring in, and I'm using her married name, but her maiden name Jones, and she's from Greenville, and that is Marjorie Dannenfelser, Marjorie Jones Dannenfelser. And with that, Marjorie, good afternoon. I have to work on your last name. It's a good Irish name. I like it. But anyhow, you are the president of Emily's List. Am I correct on that?
It's called Susan B. Anthony.
Susan B. Anthony. I apologize. Wrong group.
Yes.
Susan B. Anthony list. Yeah.
But it's an understandable slip. It's the actual opposite of Emily's
right,
list.
It is.
It's the legacy of the women who opened the door for women in politics, which were the early suffragists who solidly opposed abortion. Knew that abortion would never be the liberation of women. In fact, it was the exact opposite. It was the exploitation of women. So that's why we named our organization for her. Our foundational mission was to find women like Joan Perry, who understood science, understood what maternity really means, what femininity really means, and put political power behind it. We've done a lot more with that since that foundational mission in terms of changing politics on the national level. But it began with that, and so Joan is very foundational for us as well.
The aspect of this, Marjorie, and I want to get back to you on this one, Dr. Perry, in a moment. But the other aspect of this is, and I hate to use the term, but the women's voice. For some unknown reason, and I say this being in the media, for some unknown reason, there's a sense that women don't have a voice in politics. And I'm wondering, Marjorie, is that your observation? And is this an opportunity to, if you will, strengthen that voice, or if you will, enhance that voice?
I think what's amazing, I'd love to hear Joan's ideas on this, but I think what is happening in politics now among women is that there is a voice without question. It's a question about what that voice is.
Uh-huh.
And and the voice that began in the 60s and 70s that saw abortion as a liberation of women had a much stronger voice, and now that voice is weakening. They're not talking about abortion as a liberation as much as they were then. It's actually not the voice of women. It's the voice of exploitation. It's the voice of different voices that are happening now. But I think what Joan is doing, and what I've tried to do over the years, is to show that there's a complementarity between women and men. You don't have to hate men to have a voice for women.
Well, that goes to you now, Dr. Perry, and Dr. Joan Perry with us this afternoon. And again, remind you, Republican candidate for 3rd Congressional District, one of, Joan, 17. I want to get into that here in a moment. But very quickly, so in this capacity, of course, looking and recognizing the promotion of life, obviously those that are opposed would be those that are against life. I'm confident would be the counter argument. But recognizing your approach to life, does this, do you think, resonate with those in the 3rd Congressional District? How do you feel this issue resonates with the voters?
Yeah, so very good question. And certainly in our district, this clearly resonates with women. I feel like I'm speaking very strongly for women in the Eastern District, speaking out for life. And I think Marjorie's point is well taken. When you just can't help but look back at our Constitution and think about establishing justice, and really justice. We need to speak out for justice for those that can't and the most vulnerable, and that really is our unborn. And certainly, as a scientist, I can speak to the fact that from the union of two cells, that is life.
Okay.
And so I don't think you can draw a distinguishing line there. So I think that means justice for that being. And I think that women, all the women I'm talking to, and the women, the mothers in my practice, the families, the large majority here in our district would definitely agree with this, and they really see this as speaking out for life.
All right. And Dr. Perry, we're talking, of course, with also joining us Marjorie Dannenfelser, Marjorie Jones Dannenfelser. I want to press that word Jones since you are from Greenville. Thank you for being from Eastern North Carolina, by the way. But Dr. Perry, recognizing that obviously there are a lot of issues associated with the 3rd District, and I jokingly said a moment ago, one of 17. How do you differentiate yourself from those other 16, or make that the other 25? There are a total of 26. We got Democrats as well as Libertarians and Constitutionalists involved in this. So how do you separate yourself? What are the distinguishing characteristics, and obviously this being top of the list, but other characteristics that distinguish you from the other candidates?
Yeah, and I hope you'll let me answer that question, too.
Okay, go ahead. Joan, but first, well, all right, yeah, let Dr. Perry, you answer it first, then Marjorie, okay. I'll let you do that. Yeah.
Perfect. So you're right. This would be the first. I think, secondly, Lockwood, I am a political outsider. Uh-huh. I've never run for public office. This is not another notch in my political belt. This is not a promotion, and I don't consider it a career. I really consider it a calling. And along the same line, I think my background brings a unique skill set that's needed in Washington, and that is a skill set of problem solving and innovation. I think that we women who run large households can speak to that, and would agree. We've had more than 20 to 25 other individuals live in our home for extended periods of time over the past 35 years, and a lot of those just needed to experience a stable, functional home. And that involved a lot of resourcing and problem solving. But thirdly, I think in private sector, 35 years in private sector practicing pediatrics, many of my patients are patients with disabilities and with extenuating circumstances. And for 3 decades working with those families, learning how to leverage resources and address their issues in their homes and outside of their homes in the community. And then, I bring 35 years of community service in a lot of different arenas, from public education to private education to Christian ministry, Special Olympics, Teach for America, lots of ways that I've been engaged in the community, and that's problem solving also. So I think now in Washington, those are skills and a fresh face without a political background that would be handy.
All right, and of course that's Dr. Perry, the candidate for Republican, seeking the Republican nomination for the 3rd Congressional District, joining us from Kinston, and joining us as well, Marjorie Jones Dannenfelser with the Susan B. Anthony list. And Marjorie, you wanted to respond to that as well.
Well, I do. There's very little that I can add to that other than to say that I have interviewed hundreds, and my team has interviewed hundreds of candidates,
okay,
with the majority of women across the country for over the last 20 years, with the goal in mind to find the best pro-life candidates with a thumb on the scale for pro-life women who can advocate for this pro-life cause. I happen to have 5 children myself, and I know what management means in that regard. I also know what management means in regard to finding candidates that are electable and are the best advocates for this cause. And I have never found anybody better qualified than Dr. Perry. And I know it sounds like this is not the purpose of this call. I have to speak from my heart and say that coming from Greenville, being very pro-choice when I was there, going to Duke, changing my mind of all places at Duke University to the pro-life cause, and going to Washington after that, it is incredibly rewarding to find somebody like Joan, who I can put my hometown muscle behind and be so proud of it.
All right, Marjorie Dannenfelser, and again, she's the president of the Susan B. Anthony list. All right, Joan, I'm going to wrap it up with you here again, and I'm being very familiar with our guest. My apologies, Dr. Joan Perry. Dr. Perry, well, you've earned that. You've earned the moniker doctor there. I think it's worth mentioning as well. Joining us, and of course, Republican candidate for the 3rd Congressional District, as we are interviewing all of the candidates. Some great opportunity with you. Dr. Perry, looking forward, of course, we've got some 28 days to go on this campaign. What are you hearing from the candidates? What are you hearing from the district in your travels?
Well, I'm hearing, of course, we're a diverse district, but I'm hearing actually a lot of enthusiasm. I think I have been greeted with a lot of enthusiasm, just meeting women and families who are excited to feel like they've got a spokesperson. I think also I'm hearing a lot of need in our district. Our number one industry here is agriculture. And with our second hurricane, we're smaller farms than in the Midwest here in North Carolina. There is a lot of pain in agriculture and a lot of need there. On our military bases, lots of needs, from health care to just really occupational hazards in the homes and in the buildings. And a lot of infrastructure needs still remaining. We had some before the hurricane. Now we really have a number after the hurricane. So lots of enthusiasm, still lots of need. And I like to think a lot of excitement that they will have a voice in Washington.
Our guest, and I thank her for being with us, and I also want to thank Marjorie, and I'm going to use the middle name Jones, Marjorie Jones of Greenville, now Dannenfelser, as the president of the Susan B. Anthony list, a significant endorsement on the part of Ms. Dannenfelser for the candidate, Joan Perry. Joan, Dr. Perry, thank you very much for your time. Best wishes in your efforts, and I look forward to further conversations with both of you in the near term.
Thank you,
God bless
May
you
I add
both.
one sentence?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say what an honor it is for me to have this endorsement. It is such an honor, and it is so humbling, and one that I take so seriously. So I would love to end on that note.
Outstanding. Dr. Perry, thank you very much to both of you. Appreciate your time this afternoon.
And thank you as well.
Our pleasure. That's Dr. Joan Perry and Marjorie Dannenfelser. I'll share more with you in a little later on the program, just to remind you about our guests. You're listening to Viewpoints on the Talk Station FM 107 AM 1240.